What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you missed the last video, you got to go check it out. We got this entire chassis harness installed in the truck. Now I did a painless 21 circuit harness which powers everything on this chassis. We still got to do the engine harness, but the chassis is wired. Also, I released a set of hood struts and actually the struts for the rear hatch as well for the FJ40. These are so nice. Check this out. All you got to do is you pop the hood open, you let go of it, and it opens all by itself. Same with the rear hatch, same thing, it lifts all the way up by itself. If you guys want to check these out, head over to avrcustoms.com. I got these ready to go on the website for you. If you want a set for your 40, I got them ready for you. Now moving on to what we're doing today. We're gonna start with windows yet again. Hopefully we can get these in. We finally got in this last gasket that hopefully should be the one. This is actually a Trimlock brand, which I've seen other people use this exact gasket on these 40s and they work. So I got my hopes high. I got my hopes really high for this one. I've had 4 different gaskets on here and I cannot get these windows in. So we're gonna start with that. Also, I did get my corner glass back. They got it tinted, but I don't feel so bad because actually I gave him my tint that I've been using and he could not get that stuff to shrink either. This is actually their own tint. And I use like the Lumar IRX tint, which is supposed to be really good tint. So I don't know, I couldn't get it to shrink, he couldn't get it to shrink. Either way, they are tinted. We got to build a battery box, somewhere to mount the battery. I'm thinking right in here, kind of in between the coilover and the headlight here. There should be enough room there, and that's kind of, I mean, that's where the factory box was. Other than that, there's not really much room. People put them back here on the later 40s, but this style has a big heater box right there. The blower motor actually sits right there. So there's no room for that right there. So we really only have one spot for it. Let's hope we can make the battery box fit there. I don't know if I'm ready for this, but let's get our windows out and get this gasket in and see what kind of damage we can do to this thing. Well, right off the bat, I can tell this one fits so much better. The corners sit so much flatter, and the channel for where the glass actually sits, it's wide open. Every other gasket I put in, this channel when it was like this was completely shut, so you're fighting that the whole time. I should just be able to almost set this whole bottom of the glass in and work it around. Should be pretty easy. Let's see. Well guys, it is Monday. I've been shipping all day. We got a bunch of boxes over here. You can see there. This is all from over the weekend. I want to thank all you guys for the support. A lot of you guys bought the FJ40 front struts. I do have front and rears for this FJ40 on the website if you guys want to check them out. But I just want to come on and say thank you for all the support, all the orders you placed over the weekend. Anyways, we are back to work on the truck today. One thing I want to go over real quick, windshield wipers. I know I mentioned before that these inserts were extremely expensive, like 30 bucks a pop. Well, those are actually a different style. I couldn't even find this style, but look at, I found these strips, these refill strips on Amazon. They look, if it'll focus on that, you can see kind of the profile of that. I'll have these things linked down below if you guys are looking for, I think this is 74 and earlier. Take this style, don't quote me on it, but it's just a refill style where you just buy the strips and refill it. Those actually work pretty good. We got those on. We got the windows in last week, except for the corner glass. We're gonna tackle that today. I actually ran out of the gasket. This stuff, I got it to work, but it is so tight. Actually, well, I think it's just the difference in, I mean, it's from the 70s. Nothing is exactly the same. This window went in pretty good. The other side went in a little harder, and then when I got to the back, this thing was extremely tight. It took like 2 hours to get it in, but it's in. It's not falling out. We're leaving it. We got more gasket in today. All we gotta tackle is these 2 corner glass windows. I'm hoping those aren't too much of a pain. So we gotta do that, and then we gotta jump on battery box. Battery box is gonna be a whole nother problem because I didn't realize how narrow this engine bay is in the front with how the whole thing kind of tapers in like that. When I put my radiator in, I don't have enough room for a box. So what we may have to do is kind of offset the radiator, which is not ideal, but here, I'll just show you real quick. Another look at those struts, look at that. But either way, the factory battery went this way, right where my coilover is. So I'm gonna try to run the battery this way, but the problem is I need about 1 inch. So we don't have to offset the radiator much, but I think we need to move the radiator over about 1 inch. You can see it's right there. If we move the radiator over and completely scrap this whole mount and make more of a kind of a low profile mount, which I kind of want to do anyway because I want to move that radiator forward as far as I can for a little bit more room for a fan. So that's the game plan. One other thing we have to do is I got to see how much room we got behind the light on the back of this thing, because that is in the way as well. We need about 1 inch. If I can chop 1 inch out of the back of that little headlight bucket, we'll have room for a battery. But either way, let's get to work on these windows, get to work on this battery situation, see what we can figure out. Well, you guys are probably wondering what we got going on here. So factory mounts we cut off. I got this 3-inch angle welded on. It's just tacked for now. But on this side, on the fan side, because my fan is gonna mount directly to that. I bought a 16-inch fan. This is a 17 tall radiator, and it's like 19 wide. So I had to drop it down just a little bit. And that, I mean, I don't even think we'll have to make a fan shroud with that. The main reason I cut those main mounts off is because now that we got the battery in, we are sitting nice and centered now once I cut those mounts off, just because there was like 1.5 inches of that mount sticking out at the battery. I got about 4.5 inches to the water pump, so my fan's about 3 1/8, so we'll still have plenty of room there, so we should be good. That just cutting these mounts off saved me so much room. So we got a couple things to figure out with brackets, and then we can get, once my fan shows up tomorrow, I want to make sure everything's good with that. We can weld in all these sides, and we are looking pretty good. All right, we are all done building all these parts. We are ready to start powder coating. So kind of the system or the process I use for powder coating, everything really should be sandblasted. The powder sticks so much better to a sandblasted profile. You can do it without, but it's just not as strong. So go through, sandblast everything, and then if you got a really dirty part or something that's been soaking in oil its whole life, it's a very, very good idea to run a pre-bake cycle. You run about 400 degrees for a half hour. If you see any oil staining, go through it, blast it again, bake it again until it's completely clean. This stuff, not too dirty. I mean, most of the metal's brand new, so we shouldn't really even need that pre-bake cycle. So we're gonna go through and get this stuff powder coated. Like always, using prismatic powders, Stone Black. I love this color, I love this powder coat, I love this company. If you guys are in the market for any powder coat, go hit up Prismatic Powders. They got any color you could ever imagine, they got it all. Now, one thing I want to talk about as far as powder coating goes, my favorite thing about powder coating is how fast you can really coat this stuff. I go from sandblasted to completely coated, completely cured in, you know, 40 minutes max on a smaller part like this. Obviously a bigger part takes a little longer, but this stuff, I mean, you bake it for 10 minutes after the powder's on, you let it cool off, it's completely cured. Whereas you go with like a paint, usually paints take over 24 hours to, you know, partially cured to where you can actually handle them. This stuff, 10 minutes. After it cools off, maybe 20 minutes, it's completely cured. You're ready to throw it together. So we're going from powder coated to completely assembled in one day with completely cured product. That's amazing. That's one thing I really, really love about powder coat. Well guys, we got this thing figured out. We got everything fitting, which I was honestly kind of worried about. This thing, like I said, how this whole front end tapers down. There is not much room up here. We got it, it fits. It's a little tight, but it's gonna work. So I'm stoked as long as the radiator slash fan setup is actually gonna cool this thing, keep it cool. This is a Flexolite fan that's supposed to pull like 3,000 CFM. This is the highest moving fan I found. This actually is like, it's a weird design. The blades have, it's called a wave blade or something. It's got waves all over. It's supposed to help move more air somehow. I'm not really sure, but we're gonna try it out and hopefully it'll work. Well, anyways guys, stay tuned for the next video. We got a lot more exciting stuff to do. This thing's coming along. It's getting close. We're honestly not that far out from a first start. We gotta wire the entire engine harness. We got to do a couple things on the chassis harness still, but we got to wire the entire engine harness still, which it shouldn't be too bad really. But either way, that's in an upcoming video. I'm not sure exactly when we'll tackle that, but either way, I'm going to wrap this one up right here, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Why don't you go smash that thumbs up button, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one.